Hello everyone, welcome back. So today I'm in Blackpool to do a slightly different video. In fact, actually, if you want to see what Blackpool looks like, I've done a full seafront tour. You can check it out just up here. We're going to check out the 3 piers here in Blackpool. There's South Pier, Central Pier, and North Pier. North Pier, of course, being one of the oldest. I'm going to check out each individual pier, see what it has to offer, and most importantly, go underneath the piers, because as you know, I love going underneath the piers and checking out the architecture because they are all so unique. So, let's go. And what's great about it is not a lot of people walk underneath these piers, so you kind of have it all to yourself. So let's start on South Pier. Originally, this pier was known as the Victoria Pier, opened back in 1893. It was renamed South Pier back in 1930. It's basically got loads of thrill rides that the kids will absolutely love, and some adults. You might have seen me on a couple of these rides on a video a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of music on the pier as well, so I'm going to have to voice over and keep that music quiet due to copyright reasons. But what's amazing about this pier is inside the amusements, which we'll come to in just a little bit, they've made it actually look like a big top, which is really nice. They've also got a couple of bars on here, the Laughing Donkey, which is at the end of the pier, which is very popular, especially to go for a nice sunset drink. But as you come into the pier, obviously there's old-fashioned fairground attractions to win teddy bears and hook a duck, all that kind of stuff. There's places to go and get some fish and chips, grab a cup of tea as well, which is quite nice. So what's great about the pier is the views that you get across the beach looking northwards towards the Blackpool Tower. Central Pier there in the distance, just swinging around, and there's a couple of shops on here as well, which is quite different for a pier to have shops on them, so this is quite nice. And almost like a little courtyard bit in the middle of the pier, where you've got a collection of shops to get fudge, toys, ice cream and rock, obviously most importantly. But I love the way it's all done in the centre with the lights going across it. Looks quite nice, doesn't it? So in the middle part of the pier you've got some amusements, but we'll go down here and check out the Funfair. Just looking towards the big one there in the sandcastle, and you can just see how high the pier is off the ground, and especially at low tide. This is why it's not a good idea to jump off the piers in the summer into the water, because the water is quite shallow, more shallow than you actually think. So just heading up to the central part of South Pier, where you can go and grab yourself a drink, photo op, big deck chair. That looks pretty new actually. And I love the outside seating on South Pier because you've got an amazing view of the seafront and the beach at the same time. So that's really nice, like that. It is quite amazing how much has been jam-packed onto the pier. Coming up here then, it's where all the fair rides are. I went on that the other night. I guess it's a bit like the waltzers in a way, but I found it not too bad. I really did enjoy it actually. Obviously every pier has to have a carousel, beautiful carousel on here, and I've always wanted to try this. My back probably would not allow it, but the Sky Coaster here on South Pier, you can go on it single or actually tandem. It's quite nice. Now, I'm not quite sure on this one, but on a lot of these, you actually have to pull it yourself. I don't know whether you pull this yourself. I think you do. I can see that little red toggle hanging down, which means when you're up there, you've actually got to have the adrenaline to just pull it yourself. Now, apparently these waltzers are the second fastest in the country, and I did go on them the other night, and yikes, they spin you fast. So if you love waltzers, definitely get on here. The Crazy Coaster as well, right at the end of the pier, and also the Sky Screamer. £20 per person, you'd not get me going on that. Just coming around the Crazy Coaster, there is actually a walkway, and you can walk around the edge of the coaster and on the very end of the pier. If you don't like heights, I wouldn't come down here, but I really like it. The fact that it's a bit unnerving, the fact that you can walk and see the pier below. Great views there of the pleasure beach and the big one. But yeah, it's really nice just having a walk around here. So that was South Pier. As you know, I like to go under the piers and get a different perspective. In fact, actually, each pier has its own unique identity underneath. So let's go. And the great thing is about today that it's perfect timing because the tide is out, which means I can go under the pier very easily, although there are some large puddles. But what's great, it's so easy to get down to Blackpool Beach because of these steps that they've put in, obviously as a coastal defence as well. I just worry about my shoes, but here we go. So I think out of all the piers in the country, Weston-super-Mare and Blackpool piers by far are the most impressive underneath because they are so big, and obviously all the original pylons are still about. The only thing you have to worry about occasionally is stuff dripping down from the roof, like over there. Probably see it coming down. But yeah, and what's really cool is that you can see all the barnacles on all of these trusses as well. Look at this! How amazing! There's all these little gullies that you have to watch out for, but it's like a big indoor warehouse underneath here, and I've just got to somehow negate through these little streams. Look how weird this looks. These look like big sponges. This looks like a completely different world under here. Look at this. Absolutely amazing. This is why you definitely need to go under South Pier when the tide is out to see this stuff. The barnacles, bits of wood that have gone really rotten. They look like sponges actually, and all the mussels that you can see here just hanging on. Although I wouldn't want to taste them, to be fair. So as we go from South Pier, which is behind me right now, I thought as the tide is out, we're going to walk to our next location, which is Central Pier. And now I'm wishing that I'd got the tram, because it's a longer walk than you think. So just halfway to Central Pier, and OMG, look at the size of this jellyfish. I want to touch it, but it's probably not a good idea. That is crazy. I've said this before about I've come across jellyfish before in Blackpool, but that takes the biscuit. That is huge. It looks bigger than the tower from this point of view. And smack bang, right in the middle of the seafront, obviously, aptly named Central Pier. Now, on the day I went, it was extremely busy, so it was very difficult to film, actually, but we'll get an idea about what's on the pier. Of course, the world famous big wheel, which is a bit of a landmark here in Blackpool. You'll see it on postcards and videos, and it looks absolutely stunning at night. It dominates the pier right smack bang in the middle. And what I love about this pier, it's got a great family bit of entertainment in the Pirate Bay family room. Some great entertainment there nightly for the kids as well. And I love these talking telescopes. I've never actually put any money in them. In the middle of the pier, you've got this kind of courtyard again, which is really cool. Places to get ice creams. And I love the lights going across. And there's always a gypsy on the pier to tell you your fortune. But yeah, right at the end is the Pirate Bay Family Bar, which holds nightly entertainment in the summer. But just walking around the end of the pier here on Central Pier, there's a lot of these old Victorian seating, which a lot of piers seem to have. Great views out towards South Pier and along the promenade. And you'll see some plaques at the end of the pier as well for beloved relatives, family and lost ones. This opened up on the 30th of May back in 1868, changing its name when the Victorian, now South Pier, opened. So let's go under the pier. Central Pier recently had a fire, but thankfully it was caught quite quickly and it didn't do too much damage other than the ride that was there underneath the pier. But as you can see, there's scaffolding up at the moment as they're doing some stuff underneath, mostly to the woodwork. The ironwork, I think, looks all right. But again, I love the Victorian architecture on the bits of ironwork underneath Central Pier, with those columns just there. It's beautiful. And by far, if you're a photographer, one of the best shots to get the tower when the tide is out is from underneath the pier, because you come underneath this archway here and what greets you is a brilliant shot of Blackpool Tower. Look at that. Once again, there's always bits of water dripping down. But unlike the other pier, these have got these big plinths that it also sits on too. But look at this, what a view. It's like a completely different world with this water here. So moving from Central Pier, which was extremely busy, I have a feeling that North Pier won't be as busy, but I'm doing it all by foot as well rather than going on the tram, and it's only right we take a look at the iconic Blackpool Tower whilst I'm here and the comedy carpet. And the weirdest thing to open up on the seafront is this, which basically hands out ice creams, and really nice ones actually, but it's handed out by someone who you probably wouldn't want to mess with. So we finally arrive on the third and final pier on the trip, North Pier, which is actually the longest out of all three piers and the oldest as well, built back in the 1860s. We're on North Pier and it is so much quieter. It's actually quite nice because Central Pier was just absolutely crazy. It's taken me about 15 minutes to walk from Central Pier, which you can see just over there. There's a train on here as well if you want to get it, so you don't have to walk all the way to the end of the pier. And what's really nice is they've got a nice bar and restaurant at the end of the pier called Bloom, which is fairly new. But it doesn't kind of tie in with the rest of the pier because the rest of the pier is very old-fashioned, and the bar looks a lot more newer than the rest of the pier. But again, out of all the piers, I love the fact they've got all the seating everywhere, so you'd never get tired. If you are walking up and down the pier, there's seating all along here. And North Pier has suffered, like I say, with a lot of damage. And they are touching it up in places, you can see. But you can see from here just how high the pier actually is. It's just such a shame the sun's gone in as I've come up here. The tide is still out, which is good, because we'll check out underneath in a little bit. Check out the detailing on the benches. These cast iron, I guess these are what, fish serpents, something like that. And the stars, they look great, don't they? Attention to detail on these piers. So unlike the other two piers, North Pier does have a theatre as well. So I guess it compensates for all the fair rides on the other two piers, because why would you want the same? I mean, there are a few fair rides on here, some very old-fashioned ones. And also, it's got a very old-fashioned double-decked carousel in here, which is very unique. Just have a look at this. Look how beautiful this is. Classic, traditional British seaside at its best. Also, you'll notice that there are a lot of padlocks on the piers that people keep putting up. Obviously, the pier management keep taking them down. They're kind of obviously being put here as either people that are remembering somebody or maybe in love. But obviously, like many of these bridges around the world that people put padlocks on, they weigh it down, which people don't understand, because the metal weighs it down and they have to keep removing the padlocks. It's not because they're being mean, it's just because otherwise this would actually collapse. Still very traditional on the pier though. I think it's been a long while since it had a bit of a paint job, but you can understand the amount of money that it costs to keep up with the harsh weather conditions in the northwest and how much paint is needed. There's a bit of a queue in there, so I filmed it yesterday. This is what it looks like inside. As you'll see, it's pretty plush. There's also some gardens. But out of all the piers, I don't know whether it's because the weather's changed, but this is so much more atmospheric and feels really old and traditional. So it's definitely worth the walk coming up to the very end, but you can't get to the very end because this inflatable is here. I think this is as far as I can go. Yep, and there's still plenty of padlocks as well, look at them. And it's worth noting out as well all the stars that have appeared here on North Pier, like Lily Savage, Russ Abbott, Freddie Starr, Paul Daniels, Des O'Connor, and of course the very famous Eric and Ernie. And whilst you're going along, there's loads of these little historic boards which tells you the history of the pier as well. For example, the pier cost £11,740 to build. So for the last time, let's go and check out underneath North Pier. Bit of a walk to this one. One of the reasons why, if you come to Blackpool and you see the sea when the tide is in really choppy, is because it doesn't really drop off. It's quite shallow, and because of all these little ravines and these bumps which you can see undulating under the sand, that's why it causes it, especially when it's windy, to look very deep and wild. In fact, you can actually see the watermark on some of these. See how they're all different? I feel like North Pier has the most room underneath, which allows you to walk underneath it without getting clotheslined by a steel girder. You just see how all the barnacles are absolutely covering all of the ironwork. You can see how high the pier is, but it does feel higher than the other piers walking underneath it. Just look at all these mussels. Crazy. Okay, I've just taken the microphone off because I don't know if you can hear. It's either the wind going through the mussels or them opening or closing. Listen to this. And just capturing this perfectly as the tide is now rolling in. I just got soaked by that. I'm not quite sure what that is. Let me know in the comments. I hope it's not nothing to do with the toilets. And what's great about it is not a lot of people walk underneath these piers, so you kind of have it all to yourself. How on earth am I going to get across this? I'm going to have to jump with the gimbal as well, so I hope it doesn't screw it up. Here we go. Phew. Yeah, but obviously in the summer, don't walk with flip-flops because there's lots of these, which will really hurt your feet. And there's also lots of raised ironworks as well. So yeah, don't walk under here with flip-flops. Look at that beautiful shell. Isn't that cute? So just come under North Pier right now, and I've come to a really unique area which is accessible from the beach, actually from the left side of the pier. But it's really eerie here with all the graffiti. But by coming up here, you do get an amazing view. Oh, what's that? Water, okay. You get an amazing view of underneath the pier. Look at that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video of me checking out the piers here in Blackpool. Make sure if the tide is out, go underneath them, explore. There's some amazing sights to be seen. Obviously, if you're a keen photographer, you'll absolutely love it. Thank you for watching the video. Please make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.